If you're familiar at all with the 13 goals of the witch, you'll know that the first one is know yourself or know thyself. All of the occult books that you will read, esoteric knowledge, mysticism, will always come back to know thyself. But what does know thyself actually really mean? And do we really know ourselves? Or do we just think that we know ourselves? But before I get into that, hi, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. If you're new to the channel and you want to become Wiccan or you want to know more about Wicca, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. Know thyself is more than just us knowing our ego self. It's about us knowing who we really are, who we truly are. And who we think we are generally isn't who we really are from that deeper level, because our ego creates a persona so that we can function in the world in a safe way. So often people will think that they know who they are, but they don't really know who they are because they haven't actually done the self-exploration work to actually find out who they really are. When we think of ourselves, who we are is coloured by who we think we should be, who we've been told we are by other people, and who we've been told we should be by our general culture and our environment. So a lot of these traits that we portray sometimes aren't really who we are. They're things that are borrowed. We mirror other people. Throughout our life, we mirror people. When we're growing up, we're mirroring the people around us, the other children around us, our adults around us, people on television. We mirror these people. So again, we're not being authentically who we are because we've also mirror things from other people that we're influenced by. So know thyself is about understanding what is really you, what parts of you have you had to oppress, what have you had to change about you in order to be able to function in the world and be safe in the world, so to speak. So it involves the personal development work and shadow work, which is really just another name these days for personal development work, and that exploration into the self, which means you have to take time out to observe yourself and learn who you really are. So understand your thoughts, understand what you say to yourself every day. Understand when you're in a situation or you're interacting with another human being, why you're saying what you're saying, how you're saying what you're saying, what's the motivation underneath what it is that you're saying. It's understanding all these aspects of yourself. And sometimes things will be revealed about yourself that you may not be happy about. And this is where the shadow work comes in. It's about acknowledging parts of yourself that you don't like or that you think you shouldn't be or that society has told you you shouldn't be. So it involves a lot of courage because you've got to be able to accept parts of yourself and integrate parts of yourself that may not be acceptable, but integrate them in a way that they actually become really, really positive things in your life and not the negative aspect of themselves. If you look at the world around you at the moment, as we're going through this whole world crisis, a lot of the things that you'll see, particularly with all the panic buying and everything, people being violent towards each other over things as simple as a bag of flour, you're looking at people who have not done the know thyself work. They have not done the self-development work. They have not done the shadow work because they're acting out of fear. And they really are revealing parts of themselves or their shadow selves that haven't been worked on by the way that they're doing all of this. We come to know a lot about ourselves when we're backed into a corner and we're trying to basically fight for our life. We'll learn a lot about who we are then. And we'll learn about what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do. If you can do the work before that kind of a thing happens, then it makes things a lot better. You'll be able to handle a crisis a lot better when you know yourself more, because you'll be more attuned with not just yourself, but with everybody else as well. When you come to know who you are and you come to know what you are, as in a spiritual being, you understand and link up to what everybody else here on the planet is as well, that we are all the same. We're all spiritual beings. So we're all here doing after really very, very same goals from a more spiritual point of view. That we have similar goals, we have similar desires. And when you come to understand yourself more, you actually come to understand other people more, which makes it easier for you to interact with other people. It makes it easier for you to not get bothered so much by other people. It makes you less judgmental because you're less judgmental of yourself, you're less judgmental of other people, you're less critical of yourself, so you're less critical of other people. It just makes things a lot better. And one of the major fears I think that a lot of people have, and I know that I've confronted this even in my own work and with clients that I work with as well one-on-one, is that often when we're confronted with who we really are, the power of who we really are, like our power to be amazing creators and very powerful, becomes a block to actually going any further, because we become terrified of just how powerful we are as creative beings, as spiritual beings. Know thyself requires that we go through that fear and actually start to embrace that inner power. And often what you'll find is the things that you've been told you should be as a spiritual person aren't necessarily what you should be as a spiritual person. So it demands a lot of courage, because you've sometimes got to break rules when you come to know yourself. A lot of conventions, especially in spiritual traditions all around the world, are designed to keep people, the masses, under control. So there's a lot of controlling aspects to a lot of spiritual beliefs that are going around the place. And you've got to sift through what's a real, true spirituality from what's a control mechanism to control the masses. And this occurs in all religions, regardless of, it even can occur in paganism for sure, and Wicca for sure. So knowing thyself really means that you're challenging everything, essentially, and just questioning yourself and questioning what's going on in a positive way. So how do you do this? How do you start to know yourself? The quickest way, or the easiest way, is to start meditating, so that you develop that ability to be able to concentrate and to still the mind and to observe the mind. Because what you want to do is understand that there's an observing self, and the observing self is actually quite detached from what's going on outside of the emotions, outside of the thoughts. It's like a part of you that can step aside and watch. It's called having self-awareness, or being a self-aware person. So in self-awareness, you're aware of when your ego's going into something. You can be aware of a belief that's causing you to behave in a certain way or stopping you from behaving in a certain way. And you can stand back as an observer and observe all of this that's going on without being attached to what's going on, which means you have more control over it. This allows you to, of course, be able to then start to change what it is that you're wanting to change. So whether you've got belief going on, like a belief that I'm not good enough, for example, which is a really common belief across the board for a lot of people, you can start to work with changing that belief. It enables you to be able to step back and not get involved emotionally and going into a huge emotional tailspin when you have a conflict with somebody. So the way that you can start doing this is if you have a situation, so if you develop some meditation skills and you can quiet the mind. Meditation doesn't mean stopping thought, it just means being able to be present with what's going on at the time. So it's being present with your breathing, if you're focusing on your breathing, being present with sound, if you're focusing on sound, depending what you're using as your focus, and just observing your thoughts, but not being attached to your thoughts. So if the thought comes along, you don't go riding away into the sunset with it. You actually just observe it and you go, oh, that's a thought, and you come back to your meditation. So you're always bringing yourself back from the wandering mind. When you start practicing that a bit, it means that when you do have a situation, for example, if you have a conflict with somebody, after the fact, you can go back and observe yourself. You know, how did I act with this? What triggered me? What did I say? How did I say it? How did I feel when this was happening? How did I know that I was angry? How did I know that I was feeling threatened in this situation? Eventually, you start to be able to observe your behavior after the fact. You will soon then be able to observe your behavior during the incident. So if you have another incident with somebody, or maybe you want to ask somebody for something, but you're too scared to ask for it, or you're wanting to go for something, but you're too scared to go for it. You can observe yourself in the moment of your behavior in the moment. You can observe how you're feeling, how you're thinking, what you're telling yourself. It's just observing. You're not trying to change anything at this stage. You're just watching yourself. You're observing yourself as if in your mind you're watching a movie of yourself. But the difference is you can actually tune in to what your body's feeling and to what it is that you're thinking at the same time. then eventually you can start to change your behavior before the incident comes about. So you can start to work on different ways of changing your behavior or changing aspects of yourself that aren't working for you. That's the beauty of self-observation. But to start off with, observe yourself. When you're walking, how do you walk? How are you aware of how you walk? What are you thinking? What do you tell yourself 24/7? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling in your body right now? Which people in your life are you critical of? Are you judgmental of? Who don't you like? Who do you like? And why? What does this tell you about yourself? This is all part of self-observation, and it's also a part of know thyself. It's knowing why you think the way that you think. It's knowing why you do what it is that you do, so that you can then have more of an ability to be able to change what you want to change, hence having more control over the outcomes of your behavior. And you start that by developing an observing self. That's something that can take time to develop, and it's by no means the only aspect of know thyself. It's just the very beginning aspect of knowing yourself. But being able to step back and be the third person in your own life is really important, so that you don't get swept away with all sorts of situations that can cause you to be more in your ego and react to things emotionally without really understanding why you're reacting that way. Particularly if you find yourself getting into conflicts a lot, or you're wanting to reach a goal or something, or you've really got something you really want to do with your life, but you're blocked in some way from doing it, sabotaging yourself, not going out there and actually grabbing it. Because know thyself, and then being able to work with changing the things that aren't real about yourself, like some of the beliefs that you have about yourself, for example, is a really important part of the work. And I've done another video on the 13 goals of the witch, so if you want to refer to that to see how know thyself can actually start influencing the other goals, that the other goals to a certain degree are quite dependent on the first one, I'll put the link to that video in the description field below this video. Know thyself, it's really important. Self-development work, it is part of the craft, it is part of being a practitioner. Don't gloss over it. It's as important as learning magic. It's as important as honouring the goddess and god. It is as important as honouring the seasonal changes and connecting with the lunar energies as well. If, of course, you are wanting to work with me to help you through any of that shadow work or self-development work, or any area of your life that you are blocked and you're wanting to do some work with me, I do offer a free introductory clarity session, so that you can get clear on one thing at least that's blocking you, and then how you might be able to move through that, and if there's a fit, how we could work together. So I'll put the link to that in the description field below this video as well. If you like the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. Blessed be.